I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And here we go. It's a Wednesday edition of the live daily puck drop. We think it's Jim Moore from a park with screaming kids behind him. Jason Puckett here in the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limback Lumber. They've offered free deliveries from everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. They've got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest there, Jimbo. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limback Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. How's the park, huh? You've taken the daily puck drop outside. Where are the kids?
Look at this. We got kids launching bottle rockets over here.
Come on, no way.
You see them pumping that thing up? Can you see that far on this?
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can
think
see
maybe
a little bit.
There it goes.
They got bottle rockets?
Yeah. There, just hit the ground.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why are we there today? Why are you outside? You just got the dogs there? You just taking the show
dogs.
outside?
Yeah, of course the dogs are just, kind of running around
everywhere.
We moved last night, and
yes, there we go. We're in the new house.
We're in the new house, and
right.
I thought, my wife, she'd gotten 2 nights in a row of 3 hours of sleep both nights.
Terrible.
And so I figured, rather than have me babbling, in the house, that I would go outside somewhere. And I figured I would come to a nice, quiet park. I've been here a million times, and there's no one here usually. But today we got bottle rockets. We got soccer going on. We got the preschool going on. We got like 5-year-olds going by me.
I love it. I love
But
it.
I'm here for you, Puck.
I love the fact that there's kids. That's fine. Hell, go interview one of them. Ask them what they think about Jerry Jones going after 2 Dallas radio hosts. Hey, did you?
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't have an opinion on that. But no, this is one of those times in my marriage where, and everybody has those times,
sure,
where you need to get as far away from your spouse as possible. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing right now. That's part of it, because it was when you move, it gets stressful and your nerves fray a little bit. And
oh, sure.
Yeah, last night was one of those nights.
I think it's extremely stressful, right? I mean, moving is not fun. Moving is last time we moved was, God, how long have we been in this house? So what is it, 2024 right now? We've been here since 2011. So 13 years. I mean, yeah, it's miserable. I hate moving.
Well, this is the 3rd time that we've moved in a year, because we moved to Bend a year ago, and then after 9 months, we moved to another place, and now we're moving to another place. And then if people are wondering, well, why in the hell are you doing that? I don't have a good answer. But we're looking to buy a place now, and so hopefully we'll get settled in the next few months. But in the meantime, the U-Haul is still packed. I had to call the U-Haul place to see if I could have it for another day, and sometimes I got to be honest. I just sit there and I go, what the hell am I doing? I'm 67 years old and I'm still like packing furniture away. I feel like I'm, back in my 20s, going to one apartment to the other. But I keep telling myself it's good exercise, but it's all bullshit that I'm telling myself, because I don't need that kind of exercise.
Well, you could have just said, I can't do it today. If you don't want to do it Friday, don't do it. You want me to go reach out to people in Bend? I know people there. I've got family there. You want me to see if they can come over and help you guys?
No, what I want you to do is, with your buddy in Bend that owns the most expensive restaurant in Bend, I want to get a free dinner. Yes.
Okay.
Boss Taurus, I hear, is like an experience that you should have. It should be on your bucket list. Okay. But I've also looked at the menu, and it looks like it's a $300 deal.
Yeah, I'll talk to my good buddy, old JD, James Mesco. Shout out, James, if you're watching, listening live or back. Jim Moore needs a free meal at your restaurant.
Tell him I'll comb my hair when I show up there.
Well, it's a real good night. It's a real nice.
God, restaurant. I look like shit today.
No, you look wonderful.
No, I look all haggard and just beaten down.
You look tired. Look
at that logo though.
Go
right
Cougs,
there.
Baby. Go fucking Cougs.
5-1.
Well, the live show I think is working. It's on X. It's on Twitter. I believe the app is working. I know if people are watching on YouTube, I said this earlier, I just get this out of the way, and then we can move on to the show. There's some issue with YouTube and the platform that I use, which is called Riverside. No one cares about this. Other than just me. But it's
I do.
Okay, but I mean, like no one cares. Well, I don't know what Riverside is. It's just a platform we use to record. It's like Zoom, but like professional for broadcasting. Like ESPN and Fox, they all use it. There's some issue with it connecting to YouTube that's causing, probably if you're watching on YouTube right now, some type of crackling. I don't know how to listen. I've reached out to Riverside. We've reached out to YouTube, and they're working on it. If it persists and continues, then I'll switch to a different platform. There's other platforms out there. StreamYard people use. I'll just switch to that. But I don't want to, because I've been using this for 6 months and it's easy and it's, you know everything about it. But if it continues, then we'll switch. But feedback, leave, comments, Puck2040 on Twitter. Email me at puck@pucksports.com, puck@pucksports.com. I need to hear all of the feedback just to make sure that we have this all dialed in for you. That's it. I just need.
Well, it seems good right now. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. Knock on wood that it doesn't drop off or do something. But this is when you get into the live stuff. There's always these types of issues. But these are first. No one wants to hear our problems. All right, no one. We're here.
What do you think they want to hear? And they don't want to hear about my issues moving.
No,
here, River, come here.
They want to hear River go bite a kid.
There's another white retriever here.
There you go. And amazingly, he has his dog on a leash.
Hey, sir, your dog wants off the leash, I believe.
Sir, your dog would be better if it were off a leash, and you would have.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Let him off the leash.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Now
there he goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just and he's running towards the kids. And now there goes Sky towards the kids. I can't wait until look at River. River's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to get in trouble. One of these kids probably is afraid of dogs. And what's going on?
Maybe. Sorry, was that a bad idea?
Yeah, it's a bad idea. I'm going to tell you right now, that was a bad idea. For the listeners.
His dog just grabbed one of the cones out there.
Yeah, this is terrible. For the listeners on the app and listening back on the podcast later on Apple and Spotify, Jim is at a park where there are a bunch of kids there. He's got his dogs there off leash like he normally does. He is now convinced someone else there who has brought his dog to let his dog off the leash. Now, I'll say this. Once that dog got off that chain, it bolted. I'm like, freedom. I mean, freedom. It was like Andy Dufresne when he gets out of prison looking up to the sky. I mean, he was gone, and now has immediately gone over to where the kids are. And now probably within the next few minutes, kids, there's going to be a parent or a teacher that's going to come over and complain what's going on. So
that poor dog's back on a leash already.
Well, I hear. Listen, I'm with you. Dogs, I can keep Maple off a leash. She won't go anywhere. Alder, I can't do it. I mean, I can, but if we're walking,
like if you were here with like me right now, you think Alder would just take off?
No. But what she does, like, I can't do it in the neighborhood, just because if she sees a squirrel, or if she sees we have a bunch of rabbits in our neighborhood. If she sees a rabbit, she will bolt.
Yeah.
And she'll try to get and then she'll run out in the street. Maple, because she's old, she's just like, I'm not going anywhere. If we're on a trail, we're on a trail, I let him off.
Yeah, the instincts take over, and I don't care how I shouldn't say I don't care how well trained they are. I suppose people would tell me that if they're well trained, it'll override the instincts they have to go after little varmints and critters. But my dogs have never been well trained, so I don't know what that's all about. I just figure that if I'm a dog, I don't want to be on a leash.
I agree with you. I if I were a dog too, I mean, we are kind of dogs in a way. If I wouldn't want to be on a leash, I want to be freedom. I want to be off, just roaming around. Hey, look at my new thank you to Tim Brandel from the Cougar Collective. Hold on. Can you see this? Look what he sent me. You see that?
Oh, wow.
Huh?
An old crimson mug?
An old crimson mug. I got to ask Tim if they're going to be selling these. The collective's going to be selling these, I think. And also Old Crimson, he's sending me, you know how they make beer? Right? They make
I still have a couple of them. I saw a couple yesterday when I was moving in the little, refrigerator that we have out in the garage.
Yeah. You know what else they're making now? He's sending me some. They're making coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bag of coffee. You want some coffee? We'll send it your way too.
I do want some coffee. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's make
anything we can do to get up to 20 million. Isn't that the new threshold now? We need to get to 20
hey,
million.
What
do you think our collective has? I mean, I donated my $239. How many people would have to donate $239 to get to 20 million?
I mean,
I
could probably find out, but I don't think they would want me to say what it is. But I don't know. I honestly, if I guessed, I don't want to insult anyone. I don't know. 5 million maybe. I maybe less. I really don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not 20 million. I mean, duh. I mean, Washington's not even 20 million. I mean, that's why Jed Fish the other day was complaining about it.
Yeah, that seemed like it was poor timing, wasn't it?
I think he could have I would say this about Jed. It came off as using it as an excuse of why they lost to Iowa. And I would say that there's no way that Iowa has the collective that Oregon or Ohio State does, and they won by 24. I think it came off.
Well, don't you think Washington's collective is on a par with Iowa's, if not more so?
Yes, I would say that they would have more money than Iowa. I would expect Washington, being in Seattle, with the companies that are in this town, with the alumni base, would have more in NIL money than in Iowa City. Now,
though.
Maybe, sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think for Fish it came off as excuses, and I think that's the second time he's done that. You remember after the Apple Cup, he blamed the players, and blamed himself first, and then blamed the players because they didn't execute it. So I think.
What do you think? What do you think it'll be next week after Indiana beats them?
9 a.m. The 9 a.m. start.
You hit bottom. Like that one game that they're probably going to win is UCLA. If they lose that one,
I think they could also get USC at home. Don't you think? I mean, USC doesn't look good.
They could. God, I heard you and Canzano talking about Lincoln Riley. I didn't realize his contract was that much.
Oh my God, Lincoln.
How can you get out of that?
Well, they're red. It's a private school. They have donors and alumni will just pay it off. I'm telling you, I think she'll get rid of him. I think she doesn't like him. I think she's tired of him. And I think she's going to be tired of him. Oh, Jen. God, I'm telling you, I saw another picture of her yesterday. Man, Southern California is doing her well. I miss her up here.
Hey, when she has her closed-door meetings with Lincoln Riley, what do you think she says to him?
I don't know, Lincoln, if you're the right guy. But there's a guy in Tuscaloosa. Oh, boy. It hurts my throat to do it.
God, I do miss her. I do miss her because she bled purple and gold, and dog father this and dog father that. I grew up in
she took more
Tacoma
money
and go dogs and bow down, and then God, I'm going to USC.
I don't begrudge her at all. It's USC.
You don't begrudge her at all?
No.
That's because you kind of have something for her. That's why.
I don't kind of. I do.
I know. What in the hell would you have something for her for?
Because
I don't get it. Huh?
Okay. You have something for Kimberly Martin, right?
Well, Kimberly Martin, come on, man.
Okay. I'm just saying you do.
Kimberly, I mean, okay.
For people who don't know.
Beautiful is in the eye of beholder and all that bullshit.
People who don't know.
I don't care. Whoever says that beholder crap, you put Kimberly Martin up against Jen Cohen. Come on.
And I find Kimberly Martin attractive as well. I'm just saying that you have a crush on Kimberly Martin. I like Jen Cohen. That's me.
You know what's great about this format is that it doesn't really matter what I say anymore because I can't get fired. I don't know. You would never fire me, would you?
I can't fire you. There's no.
I can just because it's really
fire you.
It's highly inappropriate to be comparing an ESPN reporter's looks with an AD at USC, her looks. No. It's politically incorrect, to the nth degree.
No,
but I mean, most guys will talk about this bullshit.
So do women. So do women. Women sit around and talk about men all the time. Stop it. Of course they do. They do it all the time. My wife, and her group do all the time.
You know what I think my wife was actually mad about last night is that when I left the old rental house I realized that I had her car keys. And so I came back about 5 minutes later. I don't think she was expecting me to come back. I walk in and she's like, Jonathan, oh God, Jonathan. Well, she was watching The Golden Bachelorette.
Oh, God.
And there's this guy named Jonathan who's 60 years old, but he looks like he's, 35 or even 25. Shit, the guy's in great shape. And then they were doing this Chippendales performance, where Jonathan's got these bikini underwear on and everything. And she's like, Googling, what do you call it? Googly-eyed, watching him on TV.
I literally thought
probably thinking about sleeping with Jonathan,
Probably. I thought
Jonathan looked better in a bikini underwear than I would, though. I will admit that.
I thought when you said Jonathan that there was going to be a guy in there named Jonathan. and you walked in on your wife with another man, Jonathan from Bend. Can you just imagine that? Can you imagine you come home from wherever and you go upstairs and you find your spouse in bed with another person? Can you just imagine?
What do you think you would do? Because I remember Wyman, and you remember Michael Gray.
Of course, I remember Michael Gray. What is he up to? Is he back in Montana?
Okay, there was a show that we were doing a show out at the VMAC, and I don't know how this came up, but
I like Michael Gray.
It came up. This subject came up. What would you do if you saw your wife with another man and you came in on him? And then to be funny, I just said to Wyman, I'd probably watch for a little while, and then.
So that's how you do it. Oh, she likes it like that. Okay, hey, good job, Jonathan.
Probably, I don't know. What would you be? What would you do? No, really. I mean, seriously, what would you do? I think I would be like,
maybe join.
I'd see what was going on, and then I'd probably say, "River, sky, come on,
let's go to Dairy Queen, get a blizzard."
Extra caramel, please.
I don't know, but I don't you think there has to be someone that's watching this right now or listening to this, whether live or back on the podcast, that it's happened to?
Oh, yeah.
There has to be, the percentages, there has to be someone watching or listening that this has happened to. So here's what I want. If it has, we will never use your name. We'll make up a name. But if it has happened to you, email me. Puck@pucksports.com. I promise, you love when I do this, hand to God. Hand to the Cougs. I will, on my kids, I will not use your name. I will not show any, I'll just read what you write. But there has to be someone in our audience that this has happened to.
The only story I know about infidelity, was an old hairdresser I had, and she hired somebody to tail her husband when she was at work.
Like cheaters. You remember that?
God, yeah. And the guy took, I think it was like an Eastgate, just a rundown hotel, and took the girl there and got busted. So that's all I got. But no, I've never, I don't know. Nobody really knows how they'd react if that happened, but yeah, not cool.
No, there's just such a laundry list of things to cover. Rob Staton's coming up bottom of the hour. I doubt you want to stay for Rob, so we can cut you loose. The Jerry Jones, I thought of you right away when Jerry Jones threatened the careers of the two radio hosts in Dallas at 105.3 The Fan. I don't know those guys. I know those guys indirectly because River, Sky, settle down.
Hey, sorry.
I know those guys indirectly through my buddy Gavin Dawson. Gavin works at that radio station. We work together in Portland. What did you think? Here's where I thought of you when he threatened their jobs. Hey, you son of bitches, I'll replace you if I have to. And I thought of you because I think your response would have been, "Oh yeah, try." That's what I thought you would have. What did you make of that?
Well, what did Jones? Is that the Dallas Cowboys flagship?
Yeah, that's the flagship radio station of the Dallas Cowboys. That's why he goes on there twice a week. He does their show and he does the pregame show for the Cowboys.
I really don't know how.
How would you handle that?
Being that it's a flagship station, I probably would have dialed it way back and started asking softball questions.
Yeah, but you are also the guy that when you were on the flagship at 710, and you told, what did you tell Jerry Dipoto again?
Well, it was that year that they started out so poorly. They had Beckham at shortstop. You remember how bad he was? Yeah, the defense was so bad that I said, my 15-year-old kids, their team plays better defense than yours, Jerry. And yeah, I went
during the show with the GM.
Yeah. And then I had to, call him later and apologize. And yeah, he's never really liked me since then. If you could have heard, those awkward silences in radio.
Oh,
that was probably the longest one. It was probably only 3 seconds.
What was it like? Can I ask you this? When you told Jerry, hey, my 15-year-old team plays better defense than you guys. When you okay, then the pause happens. When it's over, the segment is over. You guys put the headphones down. What happens?
Well, I think Danny O'Neill probably, there's a video of when I asked the question, and right when I asked the question, you could see the look on Danny's face like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't believe Jim went that far.
No, but I'm asking
during the break.
Yeah.
During the break, I don't know, Danny and Dave just, gave me a hard time or they laughed. But later on, then Salk, called me into his office, or else he gave me a call and said, hey, do you want to call Jerry and apologize? And I said, yes. So I called and apologized because I thought.
And that was it.
I really, in my heart of hearts, I thought my kids' team does play better defense than yours. Because if you remember the first month of that season.
Sure. Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
They were awful.
Awful.
But no, I was trying to keep my job. Now, that didn't last long term, but, temporarily I was able to keep my job by apologizing to Jerry. And, Jerry doesn't like criticism either. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't think most people don't, but
I know, but in his position, he should be able to handle it.
I agree.
Honestly, like I went home that night and I thought, or that day or whatever, and I thought, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I was also thinking, man, oh man, if I'm a GM of a team, a sports team, and some 65-year-old is spouting off and saying some bullshit about my team, would I really care that much about what he had to say or what his opinion was? And my answer is no. I like to think that my opinion matters, but it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah, but
it shouldn't to Jerry. It shouldn't matter to Schneider.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Yeah. People say I suck all the time, and I just kind of go, eh.
But this. This is the problem. I was thinking about this because you've seen this more and more, not just in sports, radio, in television, and we talked about this actually 2 weeks ago with the Mariners.com and story and John Staton. More and more you have team-controlled websites, television stations. More and more you're seeing sports radio stations now taking on teams, and having not just, hey, we're airing the games, but now we're like a partner. We're like, we're partners in this together. And I think what happens is, first of all, there is I don't think no other owner in sports that's going on a weekly talk show. GMs don't even do that. Coaches don't even do that anymore. But there is a line that when you are a partner with one of these stations, or when you're a station and you're a partner with one of these teams, you do have to walk a fine line. You have to, because you're partners. But I think therein lies the problem. I can't speak for, newspapers aren't in business with people, or television stations, but I can only speak on the radio side. They bring in a lot of money because it brings in, sales and advertising sales when you partner with a team. But I'll be honest with you, Jim, I don't think it's worth it, because I think the role of someone like this or in radio is to, have an opinion. And that opinion can't be jaded because you're partners with that team. And I think when you partner with the team, your opinion becomes jaded because you've got to walk a fine line. And you can't really speak how you truthfully feel, about that person or someone who runs the organization. Listen, we saw the tenor change on our former station Okay, who's the moron AD?
Who, Rich
Chuck?
Moore? Are you talking about?
No. The AD at Washington. No, not Rich. The AD at Washington.
Troy Dannon.
Dannon. No one said anything about Troy Dannon, that he was a problem. The second he left, then everything came out that he was a problem. But therein lies the problem. If he was a problem, then you should tell people that he was a problem. But I get it. You can't, because you're partners. You got to protect the brand and all that. But
Puck, I've always had a hard time because, doing radio for 12, 14 years or whatever. Like I have and it's the old reporter in me too, where I don't want to just, it's not like I don't want to throw a beanball, I don't want to throw at a guy's head, but
no,
I also don't want to say, okay, here comes my question. I'm going to lob it in here. And then you can just knock it out of the park if you want, nobody. I think about the guy on 405 or 520 or I-90 that's taken the time to listen to us. They don't want to hear that bullshit. They don't want you to, I don't think they want you to go too far and, like I said, throw at the guy. But they also don't want the soft serve stuff either. And
I agree.
Jerry Jones, I don't know about that whole situation, but you lose 47-9 at home. And you're the Dallas Cowboys. And you go on this, it's your radio show, it's your flagship station. What are you going to expect? I mean, you have to expect that the guys that are doing the show are going to say, hey, man, like the first question should be like, is Mike McCarthy going to be coaching the next game?
Correct. I listened to
and why? Why would he be coaching the next game, Jerry?
And I listened to the lead up to it of it was fair by these two guys. Hey, listen, you didn't have a good offseason. Everyone, you signed two guys, but they were owned, but you didn't fix the running game. You didn't fix these issues, and these are the issues.
They could have had Derrick Henry, apparently, and they thought he was too expensive.
Yeah, and so they just didn't, they didn't address that stuff. And I don't know. I thought it was fair. I thought they handled it fine. The fact is, listen, they're not going to get – he would do himself too much damage by firing him. Did one of the kids just scream and get bit by the dog that's off leash?
They're still launching bottles over here.
So yeah, I think this is, unfortunately, when you get into the business with a pro team or any team, a college team, you just are never gonna be all in or on how you feel about the situation, because it's not good business. You'll get a call. Hey, man. Because like what did he say to Diana Rossini? Like Diana Rossini got a hold of him, who Diana Rossini used to work for us back in the day. Well, Comcast years ago. Did you know that, by the way?
No.
Diana, you know who Diana Rossini is, right? ESPN.
No. Well, yeah, she was with you guys for a while. Right?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, she was working not really for KJR, but she was working for Comcast Sportsnet when we were like simulcasting. It was both on Comcast and then also on the radio. Anyways, so she now works. She was ESPN, now she's at the Athletic. She interviewed him yesterday and said, quote, if I'm going to be grilled by the tribunal, I don't need it to be by the guys I'm paying. That's a great quote. That is a great quote. It's an awesome quote.
Well, yeah, that says it all. I mean, he's right. But again, if you're going to do that radio show and you lose by 38 points at home, well, what are the guys supposed to say? Hey, Jerry, it didn't go too well Sunday, but, let's look ahead to the Cowboys' next game. I don't know. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to change the channel.
Well, and I think it's why, I don't think Dipoto does this show anymore on 710. I think he stopped doing it. At least he did this year.
Yeah. I think that was difficult for him, I imagine, because Jerry likes to hear himself talk. He does. Can you tell I don't like him?
I know you don't like him. I think there's a lot of people that don't care for him. Rob Staton from SeahawksDraftBlog.com is coming up here shortly to talk all things Seahawks. I want to sneak in one more thing, and maybe we can talk more about this on Friday. If Jimmy Lake doesn't hit that kid in the face, hold on, because you know what Jimmy Lake is, right?
Yeah, I think I listened to you yesterday. He's the defensive coordinator for the Falcons.
Yeah. If Jimmy Lake doesn't shove that kid in the face mask, I shouldn't say hit, shove that kid Is he still coaching the Huskies?
How many years ago was that now?
Well, let's.
Has it been 3?
3 years, because DeBoer was there for 2.
Yeah. Well, I think we can agree that if the Huskies had been 4-0 at that point instead of 2-2 or whatever they were, that would have been just dismissed as just, oh, that's a coach, just trying to corral his player and, show him a little discipline. But since they were 2-2, it was like, oh my God, that's a good reason to get rid of him. Yeah, I don't think he'd still be coach though, because wasn't there other stuff we heard about after the fact that things weren't going like he's the classic. Gee, he's a great coordinator, but not a good head coach.
But this is what I'm talking about. We hear this after the fact from people, but why didn't we hear it during it? All right, it's always after the fact that all this stuff comes out. Yeah, I mean, maybe there was stuff behind the scenes that he wasn't a good leader, and he was, inevitably he was going to get fired. But that was what sparked the firing. Was what he did on the sideline at Oregon, right? Yeah. That was it. If he doesn't hit that kid, he's not getting. I keep saying hit because I don't think it was a hit. If he doesn't shove that guy in the face mask, all right, he's not getting fired that year. Now maybe maybe at the end of the season, maybe the next year. Was that year 2 for him or 3? No, or that year 1 or 2?
For Lake?
Yeah.
For Lake, it was year 1.
Was that that's right. That was his first year. Okay. He's not getting fired in his first year. No one's ever gonna do that. So he's gonna get at least 2 years. So he's at least there for 2 years. Now maybe DeBoer comes after that, but who knows? Who knows what happens? Maybe DeBoer goes someplace else. I mean, it's the best thing that ever happened to Washington is what he did because it gave them DeBoer. But
yeah, if he hadn't you're right. No, if he hadn't shoved that kid, he would have lasted at least 2 years. And then DeBoer probably wouldn't have come here.
Well, maybe not, but it was just ridiculous that he got turf for that. I mean, come on.
At the time, Puck, I remember at the time, though, I can't remember if I wrote about it or not. I think I probably did, but because, I mean, I go way back. I mean, coaches used to do that stuff all the time. And
it wasn't even that bad.
Nothing was thought of it.
Nowadays. He was running over there to get that kid away from going after an Oregon player and picking up a penalty.
But do you remember, though, when that happened?
Oh,
like
God.
People like you and me with our opinions on this, that was in the minority. People were like thinking, oh, my God, you can't do that.
Oh, the horror.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of former players, though. I think there was a lot of former players that were.
You have no idea. That kind of stuff happens in practice a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's no, that's interesting. Yeah, I wish he hadn't hit that kid so that they would have been shitty for a little while longer.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You look distracted there. What happened?
Oh no, I was just texting back with Rob. All right. Anything else? What else I was going to bring up with you before you go? Oh, one more thing before we get to Rob. Did Andy Bunker brought up something to me, and now I've got myself rethinking this. Dan Lanning, no doubt, admitted on Monday that he knew it was a penalty what they did against Ohio State with the 12 men on the field, right? I mean, it's obvious when you watch the video. He's admitting to it. Andy Bunker, who I'm going to talk to tomorrow to preview the Falcons, has an interesting theory. He thinks that he didn't know. He thinks that he screwed up on Saturday with the 12 men on the field. And then when he later found out that it helped them because of the penalty, that then he now is taking credit for it to make everyone seem like he's the smartest guy in the room. And now when he brought that up to me, I'm starting to think, oh, shit. I kind of like that theory a little bit more now with Dan Lanning. I'm not a big Dan Lanning guy. I find him obnoxious.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I heard you and Canzano talking about it, and I think John's right. Like 10 years from now, he probably wouldn't have done that. I'm torn on that one because on the one hand, I think, God, that was a good move that he made there by knowing that little loophole in the rule might benefit his team. On the other hand, like Canzano was talking about, there is the ethics, integrity of the game. That's kind of messing with that a little bit. And it's borderline cheating. It's not.
I don't think it's borderline cheating. It's a rule. I mean,
I know, but but it's like, oh, come on, man. So I guess is that winning fair and square though?
It's in the rule. I mean, I don't know. I bet you there's a bunch of different things I can come. I mean, in the NBA, should you foul bad free throw shooter?
Yeah, okay, but I mean, if this, okay, let's say the Cougs played down there.
What if you walk Aaron Judge, the bases, 2 runners on because you don't want to face Aaron Judge?
Yeah. Okay. Well, how would you feel about it if that was the Cougs and not the Buckeyes? And I know there's some listeners and viewers going, "Well, the Cougs would have never been within 1 to even have a chance."
They would never beat a big game like that.
Yeah, we've won at Oregon before.
I would be pissed.
No, I know.
All right. We'll let you go. Good luck with the kids. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
People streaming by.
Yeah,
hey, say hi to Rob. I like that comment he made about the Seahawks, about their roster construction. You see that? Did you read it? Seahawks draft blog real quick? Ask him about that. The Seahawks want to make a pumpkin pie, but they went out to the store and bought ingredients for a chocolate cake. So it'll never work. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, perfect. All right. We'll see you Friday.
Okay, Puck. Go Cougs. See ya.
Go Cougs. There he is. Jim Moore, the go-to guy. He joins us on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And again, if you're on the live stream right now, I know we're up on Twitter. The app is working for those who probably are watching on YouTube. And again, we started off the top of the show with this. There's probably some crackling and some issues going on with that stream. We're working on it. We've reached out to YouTube. We've reached out to the platform we use, Riverside. We don't waiting for it to be fixed. Don't know. This has been an ongoing issue for other people there as well. So my apologies if it's becoming too much of a distraction on YouTube. Just come on over to Twitter or just listen on the Puck Sports mobile app. All right, let's talk a little NFL right now, a little Seahawks with Rob Staton, who joins us. Rob Staton, of course, from SeahawksDraftBlog.com. It's all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926, committed to delivering the highest quality products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. You can check out Rob's work at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Video content up on his YouTube channel at Rob Staton Football, and of course follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. All right, Jim Moore wanted me to bring up the quote you had about the Seahawks and the roster construction, pumpkin pie, and chocolate cake. Lay it on our listeners and viewers.
Well, they keep saying they want to be this tough physical football team, in the mold of Baltimore or Pittsburgh, those classic AFC North rivals. And yet the ingredients that they put together for this team completely contradict that. They've got a finesse team. They've invested in receivers and cornerbacks. They've invested in safeties. They've invested in positions that are not the offensive line, paid big money towards them. So, yeah, those ingredients are creating a chocolate cake when they want a pumpkin pie. So I think if you want to have a pumpkin pie, you better go and buy the ingredients for that. So if you want to change this football team and you want it to be tough, physical, and impose your will on opponents, you better go and get the players that can do that.
Okay, so where are they missing out on specifically, Rob, in your opinion?
Offensive line.
Yeah.
If you look at, I wrote about this yesterday, I can get the numbers for you, because if you break down how much of their cap is being spent on all of the positions, they are spending 16.5% of their cap on the wide receiver position right now. That is the highest by some distance on the roster. And the second most expensive is the D-line, which is good. You want to see the trenches being invested in, 14.6%, and it's quarterback, linebacker, secondary. If you want to be... Jim Harbaugh takes over the Chargers. He brings his hand-picked GM in. We're gonna be tough and we're gonna be physical and we're gonna run the football. And they immediately shape their team to be that kind of a roster. They cut Mike Williams. They let Mike Williams go off to the Jets. They trade Keenan Allen. They draft a right tackle in the top 5. Immediately they set their stall out to be the kind of team that they said they wanted to be. The Seahawks do things differently. They spend a top 20 pick on a receiver. They, pay DK Metcalf a lot of money, and I would imagine they're probably going to pay him again in the offseason. Tyler Lockett is earning a huge amount of money. Between the two of them, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are costing well over $30 million this year. If you want to shape your team to be tough, physical, run the football, all those kind of things that we're talking about here, you've got to pay money for that. You've got to pay Pay some free agents to come to your team and play guard. Draft a center when you've had multiple opportunities to do that over the year instead of having a different center start for you every season. Just things like that will help you create the identity that you want.
Yeah, you know what? I discussed this a lot with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree on the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast. You go back. I mean, you probably already know this, but I'm not going to ask you the same question I asked these guys. But you go back and look at their last Pro Bowl offensive lineman. It's Dwayne Brown, and that's 2021. And Dwayne Brown was a good pickup for them. All right, so Dwayne Brown is that. The last guy they drafted that was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman was Russell Okung. That was in 2012. Now, so I just want to know. I know it's probably just a combination of everything. Now, Cross seems to be a good player. I thought Abe Lucas had a very good rookie season, and Abe Lucas now has just been hurt, unfortunately. But it's a combination of a lot of things, Rob. But I wonder if there's one thing that outweighs the other. Is it just a lack of understanding offensive line talent? Is it we don't want to spend for it? Is it coaching? Is it philosophy? What do you pin it down on?
I don't think it's the way that they scout, frankly. I think a lot of people would probably go towards that, but I don't. They've drafted some players that I thought were good players. I was a huge Abe Lucas fan. I thought he was a first-round pick. I thought Damian Lewis was a top 50 talent. They drafted him in the third round. They have taken players that I think, it'd be a hypocrite for me to turn around. I'd be a hypocrite to turn around and now say they don't know how to draft defensive linemen because I've liked some of the players that they have drafted. I think part of the problem is that, simply drafting one or two players and filling in the gaps with a veteran here and a veteran there, let's go and get Laken Tomlinson and pay him peanuts to come in. Let's just sort of see what happens in round 3 and we'll take somebody there and we'll plug them in. Or, Olo Batimi's okay. We'll give him a try and we'll bring Nick Harris back. And then, that's not work. So we'll go and sign a player who's coming off a very bad knee injury and hope that he can work things out. I just think you've got to be more proactive than that. This is a team that proactively spent 2 first-round picks and a third and then paid Jamal Adams. So they're prepared to be very, very aggressive to go and get a box safety. But they won't be very, very aggressive to go, do you know what? Sod it. We're going to go and pay a guard the going rate to have a good guard. And they've had a few opportunities over the last few years. If you have to overpay to get Joe Tooney to prevent him going to Kansas City, do it. Do what it takes. There was like 3 interior offensive linemen on the free agent market that year. They didn't get any of them. So then they had to go and trade for Gabe Jackson. Speculate to accumulate and keep doing that on the offensive line until you put together a good group. I just think that's what you've got to do. You've got to kind of accept that the whole league is struggling to find offensive linemen, to get good offensive line play. So I think, got to double down and be as aggressive as ever to bring players in, to be prepared for things to go wrong, to be prepared for signings to go badly. If you are prepared to do that with Draymond Jones, you should be prepared to do that with a center or a guard, in my opinion.
You scout, obviously. I mean, you started this whole thing by scouting players and getting ready for the NFL draft, right, and all that kind of stuff. So when you look at the college game right now, and the college game has evolved as much as it has, there's always been this theory, right, Rob, that the college game is not preparing offensive linemen for the NFL. And I wonder, one, do you agree with that? And I guess 2 is, so much nowadays in the NFL, we see what they run in college is a lot of the same stuff at times they run in the NFL. It doesn't seem to be a ton of differences. There still are a little bit. But what are you seeing? Do you agree with this idea that these linemen just are not properly being, molded for the NFL game?
No, I think one of the biggest problems is that the best prospects coming out of high school who've maybe played a bit of O-line and a bit of D-line are being, the 5-star guys are being told, come and play defensive line for our team in the SEC. You will get all of the money, you will get all of the stats, you will get all of the glory, and we want you. If those guys go to Georgia or Alabama or something like that and it doesn't work out, well, transfer portal, doesn't matter. So that's kind of what's happening there, and it's meaning the pool of offensive linemen is thinning out. I think the other problem is that just teams in general, I've done it myself. Like, you watch Alabama, LSU, Georgia, you see these big guys, who look the part and have done a very good job in college, and a lot of those guys don't work out in the NFL. You know, like Evan Neal's a good example with the Giants. For whatever reason, the big, huge, hulking athletes who are playing for Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and teams like that in the SEC are not really translating to the NFL. I think this is not a scientific approach. This is not a prospect-driven thing necessarily. But I think you have to look in different areas. I just think that in the Big Ten, they seem to be doing a better job of just chucking offensive linemen into the league. Okay. You know, every single Wisconsin offensive lineman dreams of being the next great Wisconsin offensive lineman. I think there's just a bit more of it. Their mentality is, I want to play offensive line. Okay. You know, Iowa's a good example of that. You know, there's those teams. I think that's where you've got to draft these players from.
Can I give you an exercise? Can I give you homework, because I'm not smart enough to do it, nor do I really want to do it. Can we look at this? Maybe we can do it together. How about, I don't know, you pick you want to do like the last 5 years, maybe? We can do like the last 5 years. Where do the majority of the Pro Bowl, do we want to use Pro Bowl or All Pro? All Pro is probably better.
Yeah, All Pro is better.
Yep, that's obviously all better. Let's use All Pro, and let's find out what conference they came from.
Yeah.
Let's look at that, because I just want to know. I want to know if it says, if there's any, like, no, the majority of these guys come from the Big Ten. So, or whatever. I don't know. That's, you know, maybe there's an explanation that way.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at PFF's top interior linemen in the minute, and the top one is from Iowa, the second one's from Notre Dame, Boston College, Tennessee, Wisconsin. You know, it's a mix. It's a mix, but I just think that the more I've watched these guys, like it's not a great offensive line draft coming up, but the guys that I'm looking at here, sort of my top guards. There is one from Alabama, there's one from Ohio State, but then you've got a Wisconsin, you've got an Iowa, you've got a Texas, you know, you've got a Georgia, you've got an Oregon, and there's a few other Iowa guys in there. I just think that maybe just go for that, just try that, and then invest some money in some of these players that are becoming free agents, or maybe you've got to do some trades. I think you just got to do everything. You leave no stone unturned. But what you can't do is go into every offseason doing the same thing. Like, I think it goes beyond the offensive line. But, you know, this team right now is not as close as I thought, you know, maybe as you thought, maybe as some other people thought. I think especially as close as John Schneider thought. I don't think the makeup of this team right now is close. And I think they've got to be honest about that. I cannot imagine a Geno Smith to DK Metcalf winning the touchdown throw. I cannot imagine this defensive line sacking Mahomes to as the clock runs to 0 and the Lombardi is lifted. We have to be honest. This is a team that under Carroll for the last 2 years was very capable of winning 8 or 9 games, and did. And is, as of today, on that trajectory to win another 8 or 9 games. And they've got a tough run coming up, so it might even be less.
Right.
How many years in a row do you do that before you go, do you know what? Nah, this isn't the build of this team. They don't seem to have any true leaders, in my opinion. They're not. You just watch Baltimore the weekend, like the way Kyle Hamilton was hitting. You know, they just don't seem to have enough of those guys. And if they want to be that kind of team, I'm all for like reshaping, being aggressive, and then just saying, right, we are going to set out to build the best O-line, D-line that money and draft picks can buy. They've got to get a different. Geno Smith is not the problem, but he's not going to be the answer either. It's kind of been my opinion all along. They've got to find a young quarterback to play behind these lines. And until they do these things, they're going to keep being the kind of team that we've seen for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's weird that you brought that up. It was like a hypothetical or a scenario that Garofolo brought up to me weeks ago. Just, we were talking about quarterbacks and envisioning playing in the Super Bowl, and he was just like, close your eyes. If you can close your eyes and imagine you're in Super Bowl media day, can you close your eyes and look up and see Geno Smith up on the rafters, you know, where they hang up the people? And I'm like, no. And that's not to say that he's not a good quarterback. I think he is a good quarterback, but I mean, again, I don't think it's Super Bowl caliber. I don't know though, and I think right now it's a little bit unfair to him because this offensive line is just so many issues with it. And I can't imagine him dropping back every time because I don't have enough time to throw. I don't know if I can get to my second, third guy in the progression because I don't know if I'm going to get hit because Stone Forsythe is whiffed on a guy or Tomlinson's whiffed on a guy or Anthony Bradford's whiffed on a guy. And I think you become gun shy. And I think you rip it like right away. You rip it, and I think you make mistakes. And I think that's what has happened to him. I guess what I don't understand about Schneider, I'd love if we just sat and talked to him and go, when you went to back-to-back Super Bowls, do you remember how much money you spent on that offensive line?
Yeah, it was the most expensive one.
Do you remember that? And I know that they could do it because of the quarterback, but do you remember that? Like, that should give you every indication. I mean, there's other, factors into it, but that was a big part of it because you spent on your offensive line. That offensive line was really, really good. And why did when you look back and see how much money you spent on it, now you look where you're at in the last 10 years, why not change philosophies? I'd love to hear his answer to that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Look, it's a hard conversation to have because Geno Smith is not the reason why the Seahawks have, lost
Agreed.
3 games. He contributed like a few people did against San Francisco, and I suppose to an extent against the Giants as well. But it's hard because it is the most important position. And I think sort of the thing that I've kind of reined in on this week is that what are the Seahawks lacking? I'm afraid, Puck, the answer when I thought of that was, well, they haven't got a Chris Jones or a Nick Bosa, who were the 2 game-changing defensive linemen in the last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They don't have a great offensive line, and they don't have that quarterback that, like you just said, you can imagine them going deep into it. And there aren't many of those quarterbacks. I get it. It's not saying, hey, just go and draft the one that's available next year. It's not. It doesn't work like that. There are only like a few. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Stafford. There's probably a couple I'm forgetting. Maybe Jaden Daniels will emerge to be one of those players. There are not many of them, but, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the Seahawks getting into a Super Bowl. That has to be the ultimate goal within the next few years. That's what every team should be using as a goal. How do you get there? The answer to getting there for me is not to just keep on with the roster in its current makeup and think that, hey, just one more draft and we'll get them. I don't think they're on the right path. I don't think their identity is muddled. They are not playing consistent football. The defense stinks. The O-line stinks. I think you've got to be honest about that. And people don't like it. People go, hey, what are you doing? It's 6 games. You can already tell this team doesn't feel like it's going to go to the Super Bowl or go on a playoff run or anything like that. You've got guys sulking on the sidelines. I keep thinking back to the quotes from KJ Wright last year where they were going, who's a leader in the team? And he's going, and they're going, is Geno a leader? And he's like, no. Is this guy a leader? He's like, no. And he says, well, who is a leader? And he goes, Jaron Reed might be. And that's it. It kind of speaks to it. The makeup of this team right now, it's got some good players. It's got some players who've got physical potential to be great. It hasn't got what you need to be a Super Bowl team.
Excuse me. I picked the wrong week to give up smoking right there. Kidding. I don't smoke. What did you make of the Tyler Lockett comments? It was interesting. There was like a slow play on this one, right? Because this was post game, and it took a few days for it to kind of come out finally. And maybe it just it gets buried in there, and you have to go back and watch it and listen to it and see it. And I think he does it so quickly, right? It's almost a throwaway comment. In answering a longer answer to a question. But for people who don't know, Tyler Lockett was talking about a lot of the pre-snap penalties, which they are just guilty of, like every single week, pre-snap penalties. Like it's one thing to live with holding and pass interference and a face mask and things like that. But when you have pre-snap penalties, it's just awful. And it's a lack of preparation and focus and all that. And he was asked about it and said, quote, we can be more focus oriented when it comes to walkthroughs, not just in full pads, but just the little things. We've got to treat walkthroughs as the game. Like that's concerning. I think he's being honest. It is a reflection of coaching though, because he's saying to the coaching staff, hey, we're not focused in these walkthroughs and we need to change something up here. Now the responsibility's got to be on the players as well. They're professionals, but it's also causing an issue here with coaching. And I wonder, they spent this kind of I guess not mini buy, but a little bit of a mini buy. I wonder if maybe reflecting back and changing some things up here from Mike Macdonald. I felt all along with Mike Macdonald, Rob. I don't know if you agree with this. I think there were going to be some growing pains in year one, and I think we got spoiled with the 3-0 start.
Yeah, I think some growing pains are inevitable from the whole staff because they were all inexperienced. You know, the OC's never done it before, the DC's never done it before, the special teams coordinator's never done it before. You know, it was everybody was new. You know, Leslie Frazier was brought in to help them, but it's clearly not been enough to avoid some of the mistakes. I think there's definitely some of that. You know, the coaching has been a bit of an issue. I also think, look, it speaks to where the Seahawks are. It speaks to leadership again. Like often in these kind of situations, you need the players to police themselves. Like if that walkthrough is not being taken seriously, you need one of the players to turn around and go, listen, get your head in the game here. We've got to take this seriously. Great. And you know, who's doing that? You know, they just traded for a guy from Jacksonville and everyone's kind of nodding along and finding that those 3 clips where he might have done well, you know, on the field. I think they brought him in because maybe because of his character. Because, you know, because some of these guys, some of the guys who've been playing on the D-line have been crap. And I think they're bringing him in for that as well. But I think they want a grown man who's going to come in there and maybe sort of crack a few heads, really, maybe join some of these practices and be sort of that figurehead who's been a big character guy. Because I don't think they've got enough of that. They've not got enough guys who are just going to keep the standards high. And I think coaching has been an issue. Growing pains, yes. Did I expect more from Mike Macdonald and his defense? Yes. Has the offense been very streaky, stroke confusing? Yes. Really, I think the Detroit game has gone from being a massive positive for the offense now to maybe thinking maybe that spoke more about Detroit because they had basically like a couple of quarters against Miami where the offense just stopped working. Mm-hmm. They had a whole half against Denver where it didn't work. There was the New England game where, you know, really they relied on Geno Smith dragging them out of a hole in that game. The Giants game, the offense wasn't very good. And the San Francisco game, the offense wasn't very good. So now, what have we got here? We've got the Detroit game and a bunch and not much else. So I really need to see something this week. I think this is a big game, Puck. If this unravels even more against Atlanta, that'd be concerning. If they come roaring back and win the game, then fine. But my whole thought since that Niners game was the Niners are better than the Seahawks. They've got their number in a way that the Rams and the Cardinals are not in that same place with the San Francisco 49ers. And until you change the makeup of this team, both mental, physically, and the where you are spending your money, I don't think we're going to see the kind of change that people want to see.
Yeah. I think you go back to the guy from Jacksonville. God, now I'm blanking on his name, and I love saying his name. Hold on. Roy, what's his name? Roy
Robertson Harris.
Yeah, hold on, because you have to say it in a certain way. But now I can't remember I can't remember his name now. Son of a gun! What's the guy they just signed? Roy
Robertson Harris.
Roy Robertson Harris. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now you have to say it in a Southern accent though, because I'm convinced that he's a Southern lawyer from Atlanta. Yeah, you welcome in, Rob. This is Roy Robertson Harris of Roy Robertson Harris LLC. Well, sit on down. I believe you are not guilty. I don't know. I think when you say his name, you can't just say Robertson Harris with him. You have to say Roy Robertson Harris because it runs smooth. But he was teammates with Gibson, right?
He was with Rayshon Jenkins, with Gibson. Yeah.
And I think it was Gibson who said, hey, man, this guy, he is a pro. He is dialed in. When you were talking about him, he is serious. He's all business. So, yeah, maybe, I think they needed some help on the defensive line. But, yeah, maybe they just needed someone to come in and be more of a, I don't know, professional. See, to me, if it's that's a massive red flag to this football team. That to me. And I agree with you, what you said about Lockett's comments, because it's what I thought about too. Yes, I think there's probably some things that the coaches clearly could do better. But Jesus, man. I mean, Tyler Lockett, you've been in the league for over 10 years. Why aren't you stepping up and saying anything? Geno Smith's been in the league forever. Everyone was raved about his leadership skills. Why is he not talking and speaking up? Why is he not holding people accountable? Now, on the offensive line, you have no one, right? Connor Williams not going to be that guy. Hasn't been here long enough. Defensively, I guess it can be Jaron Reed. But your best playmaker on defense, Devin Witherspoon, he's the second year in the league. He's not going to be a leader. So they are void of that.
They have appointed a defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens who's worked almost entirely for the Harbaughs. They have invested in a Harbaugh system and approach. It's time to give Mike Macdonald Harbaugh players who will stand up to be counted, players who will hold each other accountable, players who are going to get into Lumen Field on a Sunday and it's an over my dead body approach. Are we losing at home? I mean, that's the other thing. The home record stinks.
Yeah, that's surprising.
No one goes to Seattle anymore and is like, oh, this is a tough game. People go to Seattle and it's cigars out and, kick back and get a win. They just, it's too easy. Like everything about the Seahawks is, it's a bit fake and phony, or this tough guy. They're a finesse team. They're a finesse team with ambitions of being a tough guy team. So change it. The only way you can change it is by being honest about that and changing it this offseason. And my biggest concern, Puck, I have to say, I'm not anti John Schneider. I think John Schneider's a very good GM. But how willing is he to say, I drafted that guy. I gave him a massive contract. I've given him a massive contract. And now I'm going to admit that I got it wrong. And I'm going to move some of these people on and get new players in. Or is he going to be instead like, I've got to cling on to these guys. I've got to try and make it work. Like he was doing with Jamal Adams. He wanted to bring Jamal Adams back because I think he wanted to prove that he was right all along. And I'm a bit worried he's going to feel that way about this roster that he's built. I've got to be proven right with this roster.
Yeah, well, I mean, his who did I do? Maybe it was with Tim and Curtis. I mean, we think that, and I'll ask you the question. I think with his new role and Macdonald, we think it's given him what? 2 years? 2 years of a leash, right? He gets 2 years to figure it out.
Yeah, I think 2 years would be fair.
Yeah,
but he's got to do something. He's because it's like you can keep doing the same thing over and over again, keep finishing 9 and 8, and being happy about that. Now, I'm not happy about that. It's 6 games in a row against the Niners. Yeah. I went to watch a film called Terrifier 3 on Friday. It's banned in France. None of my friends or my wife would go and watch it with me, Puck. And the Niners game was more horrifying than Terrifier 3.
It sounds like, is this only a release in England?
No, it's the #1 film in America this weekend.
What is it called?
Terrifier 3. It's an acquired taste. If you like horror films, then you will like it. If you don't, then I would avoid it like the plague.
No, I don't like it. I don't.
But if you like horror films, I would recommend it because it is the #1 film in the States and in the UK, so it's doing well.
Okay, all right. We will we'll talk to you next week. We appreciate it. Thank you. For everyone who needs to check out your stuff, and including the piece and what you gave that a great analogy about the Seahawks and how they've been built, tell everyone where you can find it.
SeahawksDraftBlog.com. The article is on there now. There is some draft stuff as well from the weekend. Go and check all that out. And the videos on the YouTube page, which is Rob Staton Football.
Okay, Rob Staton Football. Thank you, Rob. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
There he is, Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. It's all brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Superior Linen Service committed to delivering the highest quality products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get a free quote today at suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-383-2636. Again, check out Rob's work, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. His YouTube channel as well. It's great. It is phenomenal. He does a post-game show. He does live streams. I don't think he has issues sometimes. Rob Staton Football. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. And again, he joins us every single Wednesday at 10:30. If he came into this late, it will be podcasted up later on YouTube. Also, Puck 2040 on YouTube. Also on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. There, just search Puck Sports. And, of course, up at pucksports.com. So big thanks to Rob there for joining us. We are going to talk a little baseball, and Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, as we transition from football to baseball. Divish is going to be joining us throughout the offseason to talk baseball, and we're just going to, every week, we're just going to come up with maybe a new player, new storyline to analyze, because this is, without a doubt, going to be one of the biggest off seasons for the Mariners. Of course, the announcement yesterday, you've got Cal Raleigh and Dylan Moore, both finalists for Gold Gloves. but also what are they going to do in the offseason? You know, are they going to trade one of these young starting pitchers? So Divish has been very gracious with his time because he's got nothing else going on to join us again throughout the offseason, all brought to you by our good friends at Chalet Bowl. And we've got glasses. Leave them on. Yeah. Hey, listen, look at me. Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Are these because you can't read like close up?
Well, those ones aren't. I have actually, those are just like, I get headaches from looking at my computer too much.
Hey, look
at kind of blue. Oh yeah, I got those too. What,
readers
on the front of your nose. Yeah, I got
terrible
pairs of those. Yeah, they suck, and they make your eyes feel worse after you use them.
I agree.
When you get done.
I agree.
Like
this
you
is
just
terrible. Yeah. This is why I'm going to get I'm going to get the Furness surgery.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to go spend the money on the Furness surgery.
Well, yeah, but he didn't spend the money on the Furness surgery.
Yeah, I know.
I
know. Well, maybe I'll get them to. Hey, you want to support Puck Sports? And maybe they can be along with Chalet Bowl. They can be a new sponsor along with Chalet Bowl for Ryan Divish. I don't know, but if you have an icon up, here's the thing: we're not on radio anymore. There's no FCC standards. Plugola, payola. You come on here to pucksports.com if you're in the eye business to correct. What is this? I'm nearsighted, right? If you can correct that, hit me up. Puck at pucksports.com. I'll give you free advertising for the surgery because I hate it, and this has happened like in the last 8 months. It's awful. I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's like mine started about 2 years ago. It started like I noticed I try to read a menu at night. You know,
yes.
Go out to eat and it's dark, and then I'm having somebody hold the menu from across the table.
That's when I first noticed it. That's exactly when I first noticed it.
Yeah, and then it's also then you start looking at your phone now, and I mean I got the font set up at about 100.
Like
but
this.
Then but also like if you like taking video or like how they stream games on TV and stuff, like I can't see it, like it's all kind of blurry if I'm trying to watch it on my phone. So yeah, I don't need a ton of magnification too. Like the 1.0 is too much, and that gives me a headache. Like I only need like 0.50 or 0.75, but they don't make those cheap glasses. You got to order them special. So I've just I have some 1.0s that I put on if I really need to use them. And I never bring them with me.
We're getting old. It sucks getting old, man.
My girlfriend made me download this magnifying lens app that helps a little bit when I'm out. She's just
the beauty of it. So good. Well, Divish is with us here on the offseason. Big thanks to Reggie and the crew over at Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley. They've been serving the community since 1941. It's located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They have been family-owned and operated for 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. I've been seeing Reggie there on Instagram when he's not taking pictures of playing golf or on the plane. You've got a new paint job there at Chalet Bowl there as well. Book your next reservation, chaletbowl.com. I have we've talked yesterday. We're going to title this the Cal Raleigh episode.
Okay.
You and I both, we adore this man. Okay.
Yeah.
He is just everything you want in a baseball player. He's everything you want specifically in a catcher. He was yesterday came out to finalist for the Gold Glove. He's going to win it easily. He had the best season as a catcher this year. Kind of off season is this for him? I mean, I would assume, Ryan, he is going to kick up his feet for a while. I mean, they used him a lot. And probably you can make an argument maybe they overused him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely say they overused him a little bit. The gap between the catching and just the production from the backup catching role or whatever, how they want to use it, their search for offense. I mean, they pretty much ran him into the ground, and he's tough. I mean, like he physically took a beating. They don't have a stat for number of cup shots taken during a season, but he has to be right up there. And it's amazing that he was still productive as he was, as beat up as he was. And it's testament to how hard he works. I mean, you won't find a player on that team that says a bad thing about him or question his leadership or his commitment to winning. It's pretty extraordinary. There have been tough catchers, and Mike Zunino was a brilliant defensive catcher that the pitchers all loved. He just wasn't as good offensively as Cal. And it's different too, because like you look at Cal's batting average, it's not exceedingly high, though I think it can get better. I think he's getting to be a better hitter. But the home runs every year, the clutch hitting, the times he comes up with the hits that he does get, the RBIs, all that stuff is still very important. Dan Wilson will go, as a Hall of Fame or Mariners Hall of Fame catcher, but Cal Raleigh is the best catcher that's put on a Mariners uniform overall that I've ever covered. And remember, I saw some bad catching for a while when I first started.
Who was the worst?
Kenji? Huh?
Who was the worst?
I don't know. Probably Miguel Olivo. I mean, I felt like he had a path, and he was kind of a psycho. Remember, he ended up biting the ear off of a guy or something in a fight.
Oh, that's right. So, is Olivo that one? Is Olivo the one that went after Kevin Shockey?
Yeah, Olivo. Yeah, kicked him out of the clubhouse. That was awesome too.
See, I always appreciate and have a soft spot for Miguel Olivo because of that.
Like Olivo was cool as long as he was playing, but anytime he had to sit, then he'd be angry and upset. But he wasn't very good defensively, and he didn't really work that hard at it. So it was like, I'm trying to think. That first year in 2007, it was Jojima, who I swore had a frying pan on the inside of his glove because everything would bounce out of it. The red Nike glove or whatever.
Oh,
terrible.
Yeah.
And then I think Jamie Burke was his backup catcher. Then, you had the run of Jeff Clement, Rob Johnson, Adam Moore. You throw in Olivo in there, even like, oh man, it's
too many bad catches to remember.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of bad catching in MLB. That's what makes Cal so unique.
Yeah,
is that here's a guy that is committed. In terms of he's committed to winning and being good every day. And he's committed to the idea of putting the pitchers first, prioritizing game calling, being good behind the plate, blocking, framing, all these things. Then you throw into the fact that he's an outstanding hitter that has hit more homers than any other catcher over, in their first 4 seasons of baseball. Mind you, he only hit 2 in his very first season. And then, he's been productive, and then also grasp the leadership. You look at him in the community. One of my buddies, Ryan Daly, his son had a birthday on the field. Cal gave him a bat. It's pretty cool. Like, the guy gets it. You don't come across these guys very often, and it might be pretty hard to replace him.
You think he's the most valuable player on the team?
Yeah, without a doubt. Because of what he does.
And that's not to say he's the best, because I think there's a difference between being the most valuable and the best player.
But you could argue he was the most productive player this year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, most valuable, most productive. He might not be the most talented, though we're talking about a guy leading baseball and runners thrown out in consecutive seasons, a guy that's hit 28 or more home runs in the last 3 seasons, and has delivered most of your clutch hits. I don't know if you can measure anything more valuable than that.
I mean, you had it in your story today when he was in the finalists for the Gold Glove. I mean, he led Major League Baseball in games and innings caught. He led Major League Baseball in caught stealing. He led the league in defensive runs above average, catcher framing, fielding run value, tied for the lead in defensive runs saved. All that, and home runs and RBIs. I mean, all of it. I mean, it's just, what he did this season was just remarkable. And I think we've talked about this so much during the season about will they get him a contract? I mean, he's not a free agent technically, I think it's 2028. Does he want to be here? I think that's the biggest question I think a lot of Mariner fans have. because I think they look at his agent and they see Scott Boras and they go, oh man, not with that agent, not with that guy. I don't know if anything changes, and I know there's been some people, I've seen the online chatter. Nick Castellanos has recently dropped Boras, is going to represent himself, and people are advocating, hey, that's what Cal Raleigh should do. But I mean, he wants to make money. They all want to make money. He's going to get paid more this year than he ever has made money in his career because of the archaic rules there in baseball. But I mean, does he want to be here, you think?
I think he'd like to be here, but I think he wants to be here under the right circumstances. One, that he's paid fairly, and two, that he believes like this organization is committed to winning. If you're going to go out there and get the shit beat out of you every day, and give the kind of commitment that he gives on a daily basis to win games, don't you expect that the people that are putting the team together have a similar commitment to winning? Like if Cal is this committed to winning every day, that he's beat to hell, he's going in every day at noon for a 7:00 game so he can get cold treatment, the cold bath, the hot bath, all these things to get his body ready to play that night. I think it's a fair expectation to ask the team and the ownership group to have the similar commitment to winning, whether it's like investing in the rest of the roster. So I just think like that's going to be an aspect that really will shape what his decision is. Obviously, like the money and everything else involved is going to be a large portion of it. But like I don't know that he's going to get. The thing is he's older for where he's at,
right?
And we were talking about it. Like we couldn't find a comp to like a comparable catcher in a similar age with that sort of production in their first year of arbitration eligibility. Like it's either guys were lucked up or guys were never that productive or that old. And here's Cal, being at that age. And it was pretty crazy. Like we didn't know. I guessed around 6. MLB Trade Rumors has it at 5.5. I think with their algorithm,
which is still just an unbelievable bargain for him.
Oh yeah, but and that's the thing. But catchers have such a short shelf life too. So I think that's I understand. Like it's just so easy to extend him now, and the Mariners have to gauge the importance of that and what their limit threshold. And they have their thresholds obviously with payroll.
Right.
But, what does Boras think, and what does Cal think? Like, Cal's family all lives in North Carolina. So does that push him? He grew up wanting to be Jason Varitek. Does he want to go to Boston? And, they'll pay him. Does he want to go to Boston and hit in Boston? Does he want to play for the Braves? What if there's an expansion team in Nashville? I think like all these things, I don't think he wants to really do that, but like there's, what if somebody just dumps a bunch of money? He can be on the East Coast, be closer to family. I've talked to him about it. He loves the weather in Seattle in the summertime, and he lives in Arizona in the wintertime. He does what me and you want to do that we can't do. He bought a house in Peoria. I think it's on a golf course or near a golf course. He golfs in Arizona in the wintertime.
Does he have a backyard putting green and a big fire pit too?
It's possible. It's possible. I don't know.
And a pool.
It's like, yeah, I mean, he does it right, but he does talk about how much he loves the weather and just loves summers in Seattle. He loves the Seattle area. I think he's, the fans are really invested in him, and he's bought into this community. So, I don't think that's a given with every player. Like there are a ton of players that say they're invested in the community and they try and want to be a part of it all and everything else. But I think if you watch him on a daily basis, interact with fans and how he does stuff, I think you would be stunned. Like those guys, and we've said this before, these guys are it's the nicest group of guys I've ever covered in terms of like interacting with fans and dealing with the media and everything else. And at the top of the list is Cal. I mean, he has a sense of responsibility to the city, to the organization that isn't always typical in a lot of players. I mean, Julio has it as well, but it comes from different places. Julio has it because he's, he believes he's the face of the franchise and he wants to push this and, like this is what you're supposed to do as being the face of the franchise. And it maybe comes from a different mindset, whereas Cal he's a professional in this he understands this is what he does, but also like he's just got an everyman quality that I think a lot of people like, because he was never the elite guy. He was never the stud prospect or anything like that, and I think he really values what he's done in Seattle and how much fans care about him. But at the end of the day, he still has to get paid fair value for what he's done and what he will do. And I think winning is important. I think he wants to be a part of a winner. He's hurt. I mean, like, he is very close with, like, he saw what happened with Seager. He's friends with Seager. He saw what happened with Seager retiring without playing in the postseason. He does, he's done that once. You certainly don't want it to be a one-time deal. So I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I see, for me, it is every day or every week and every season that goes by that they reach in a long-term extension with him or anything. I mean, Divish, has there ever even been a report of anything ever on the table for him? Before you answer my point is, the longer this goes, I don't have a lot of confidence that it gets done. That we bet right now, I would say that he is going to leave. He will leave as a free agent or they'll trade him or what have you. Like, he's not going to sign a long-term deal here. That's what it feels like to me. Now, I'll go back to the question I asked you, which was dumb. I'm asking a question and then doing a comment. Has there ever been anything reported on the table for him?
Not that I know of. I've asked him about it. He hasn't said anything in terms of anything concrete. Boras kind of said that they hadn't, at least Boras had mentioned it to Adam Jude at the All-Star break, that they hadn't really engaged in anything serious. Maybe it's because of the reputation of Boras. I think a lot of it too is you allow, sometimes with Cal or whatever, you're allowing it to shape what the first arbitration number is, to shape the market, what you're willing, because you're trying to buy out arbitration and free agent years or whatever. So like this year they find out it's 5.5 is what MLB Trade Rumors algorithm predicts, and people have said that's very, very close. I doubt that the Mariners will go 5.5. My guess is they'll offer 5. I'm sure Boras will go 6.5 or something like that. Maybe they'll go to arbitration. But so then you have that number. So then if Kyle comes back and has another similar year, then you automatically expect it to double up to 10. And then the third year, somewhere around 15. Well, then you have a baseline number of what the value of that contract will be, because it's never going to go below what he made before. So that's where I think that maybe if they really wanted to get it done, it's sometime after this year going into next year, or maybe mid-season this year, because now you have numbers and you have a baseline of what you want to. But like, again, as I said, there's weird stories all around, but Real Muto is a lot different than Cal. And he's probably the last catcher to get a big, Salvi Perez got his extension when he was in the minor leagues before he even played a big league game. I think they re-upped it again. And then obviously every organization is afraid of having the next Jonathan Lucroy, who was considered the big guy, and then all of a sudden got just riddled with injuries. Cal's a little different though. He's been unbelievably durable and tough. So, and I guess that's also the measure of how do you measure value to your staff, to your team, the leadership aspects, everything else. How much do you think that Cal's presence makes your starting staff better? The pitchers all seem to think it does. So all those things have to factor into what beyond just the production value as well.
I mean, do you see him
where the Mariners at?
Do you see him somewhere in like the neighborhood of a Will Smith type of contract? That was 10 years, $140 million.
Yeah, I mean, so say you wanted to at least get 5 or 6 out of it. It can't be less than what, 10 or 12, can it?
No. I
mean, it just can't. That's kind of where they're at. Rutschman will be Rutschman is coming out. He'll be, I think he'll be a free agent a little bit later, but it'll be similar. That's the point though, too. Like if you get to that, once you get to the third year of arbitration, where you're in that third year and then free agents on the horizon, most guys just wait it out then. Very rarely, it's usually in the second year, like very rarely do they just go, once you're at that point, once you've made it that far, then bet on yourself.
they make a decision here in the next year. Is Ford ready for that? I mean, Ford was doing a little bit more outfield this past year, not a ton. Still the catcher. Would they just? I mean, when would Harry Ford be available and ready to go? Do you think, in your opinion?
I think at some point this year we could see him if they need him. He'll be at AAA. He's been, because he's a high school catcher and then all the other aspects. Like, it's almost always a full year at a place and then move up. So I assume he'll be at AAA this year. The numbers are solid. They're not great. He gets on base. He doesn't wow you with his power. I don't think that the power has come along like maybe they expected, but he's not the oldest kid either. Athletically, he's great, but even then, like, some scouts have said that the athleticism doesn't necessarily translate to defensive consistency or even outstanding elite level defense. He's a great athlete back there, but that can be refined. Cal finished second in framing last season, in framing outs or framing runs saved or whatever it was. Finished second. He spent the entire offseason revamping his framing technique because second wasn't the best. He redid it. He worked with, I think it's Austin Hedges, and just changed his technique a little bit. And you know what? Now he's the best because he felt like, as he said, if I get 3 more outs a game because of my framing, that can be the difference between us winning, a game and getting us into the postseason. I mean, like, think about that mindset for a second here. You're really good at something, but you're not the best. And you realize that if you can be just a little bit better and do something a little bit more and spend some time on it, that it can make a difference for the whole team, not just you. Because, like, framing, like, nobody gets all excited. There's not a John Boy's not doing a framing video, or there's no catching framing ninja. I mean, like, come on. So it's like, as somebody who played the position and had to convert to it, like, everything that I watch him do, I'm just amazed at how good he is and how committed he is. And I've seen firsthand how difficult it is covering this team for a long time, because I'm not going to compare how difficult it is catching crappy pitching in North Dakota to catching big leagues. But, like, what he does on a daily basis and how difficult it is, I have the ultimate respect for. And like I said, if they get to that third year of arbitration and the team's bad, they'll trade him if they have to, don't they? Isn't that the business model? Like, if you get to the last year of his arbitration, he's making 12, 13 million, and they don't have a competitive team out there, and they know he might not resign. Don't they have to then? Isn't that the logical thing?
I get it. It would just be if that ultimately were to happen and that were to be the case, it's just an ultimate failure about everybody within the organization, because you have this elite pitching staff, and you've got this guy that has been with them from day one. And I'll just going to circle back to how we started the show. He is everything you want in a professional athlete. Everything that you want to lead your organization at one of the most important positions, obviously, in baseball. And to just let him walk or to trade him, you have him. You acquired him. You drafted him and developed him. Do everything you can to keep him. And I guess I just keep wondering, because he's been so outspoken at times about how he feels about winning and maybe the direction of ownership and front office. I wonder if ownership is like, nah, I'm not going to spend money on that one. And I think of it because Jerry Jones, right on yesterday, goes after these radio hosts in Dallas and goes, hey, listen, I'll replace you. I don't need to hear it from you two. I'll find somebody else, and then does an interview with Diana Rossini where he's like, I don't expect to get it from those two. I pay them. And I wonder if there's the same attitude with ownership with the Mariners. I don't need to hear it from our players criticize us. I don't need to hear that. Maybe that's some of it.
Yeah,
I could be reaching there, but
it's certainly a possibility, because, like, there was a perception for a while from around baseball and even in the clubhouse that the older players that went against kind of Jerry's philosophies on stuff were gone eventually, or were doghoused, whether it was Seager or Haniger for a time being. some of those guys who kind of pushed back against what the front office was doing, were kind of doghoused and, couldn't get out of it. Marco, some of those guys. Now, I don't know how punitive it can be because you still got to put your best players out there. I mean, Seager and Dipoto didn't have a great relationship, but he still played 160 games every year, 150 games. So it's not like they were benching him. So you don't have that option. I mean, I run into the same problem in my own job. When somebody asks Cal what he thinks, he usually says it, and he doesn't. That's what he does. And sometimes those truths are hard to hear, but at the same time, like, has he been really wrong about what he said in a lot of ways? No, but I think, like, if you're comfortable enough with who you are and what you're doing, i.e. John Staton and Jerry Dipoto, then it shouldn't matter you shouldn't expect everybody to agree with your thinking. But if you believe that what you're doing is proper, then you do that and just say, hey, look, I understand you don't agree with it, but here's why we think we're doing it the right way, or here's why we're doing it this way, which is precisely what Scott Boras went out and did in the offseason last year, and went and talked to all those guys and said, hey, look, I know you guys said this. I know you guys have been vocal about this. This is going to look one way, but we have to do it this way because of this. We have to do it this way because the payroll isn't here. So we made these moves. We think we're going to get better. And really, if you talk to all those guys at spring training, they believed in the moves and understood, because there was some communication from Scott representing the front office about what was going to happen and why it was transpiring, instead of leaving them in the dark. So I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna be that petty or spiteful to hold grudges, and you're talking to somebody that holds grudges, it should be for something big, not for something little. I mean, like it's like you have to at some point kind of put it all aside and say, well, this is the goal here of what we're trying to do. Not everybody believes we're going to get there in the same way. Not everybody's going to like how we do it. But if we all get there, then everything's a little bit better. Because I do think, like, look, if you have the Mariners payroll issues or whatever they have, and, Dipoto has beliefs on how he wants to build a franchise, but then you have player beliefs too about adding, more established pieces or, proven players. I think there can be a happy medium somewhere in between. I think that's what's been lacking a little bit with this whole process. We talked about it before in the early 2000s. They were just trying to band-aid it together because they wanted to keep winning. They never wanted to tear it apart completely. So instead, they just kind of kept piecing it together to be mediocre instead of, like, doing something to be great, whether it was taking a couple years back to build it up, or, dumping money into it or something, doing something to be great rather than doing something to hopefully be average at best or slightly above average.
When are we going to get the exclusive sit down with Service from you?
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, like, look, Scott's not stupid. He wants to get a job in baseball. He wants to be a manager again. Like, coming out and airing your dirty laundry and doing all that stuff, that's not gonna do it. I mean, like, look at Eric Wedge. Eric Wedge went on the record with Baker and Tony Bongino and a bunch of those guys, and none of them really ever worked in major. I mean, Eric Wedge got a life raft from Mark Shapiro with the Blue Jays, and he worked in the front office and did some scouting stuff, but he never served in a field capacity. Can't do that. You get blackballed if you do that. If you do that, you go out there and you say these things and you go against the grain and speak against the institution, you don't work in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Scott wants to work in Major League Baseball. I don't know that he'll be manager this year. I think he'll work in a front office maybe, or on a coaching staff. I do think he'll manage again, though.
Okay. All right. Next week, as we continue our kind of our off-season series with the Mariners. We spent all this full show just on Cal Raleigh. Next week, we'll I don't know. We'll pick and choose. You know what? We'll let Ryan decide what he wants to do next week. Maybe pitchers, Julio, JP, whatever you want.
Yeah, we can do something next week. The week. Oh no, I think I'm leaving. Yeah, the week after that, I'm going to Vegas for for Alex Akita's 40th birthday.
Okay, well, we
going down there.
We can adjust our times. Well, Godspeed to your liver as you celebrate Alex Akita's 40th birthday party. Shout out to Alex. You'll be actually it'd be kind of fun if you would do the show like the morning after, like a night in Vegas. I think that'd be highly entertaining.
I do recall calling you guys when you were back on KJR that one morning. I lost my voice and I could barely speak, and I was just smelled like I sounded probably like I smelled at that point.
You were wandering down, I think, eating like Whataburger or something, or
no, we were going to Crack Shack or something like that.
Okay,
I think I should do it. And I was listening to Rob Staton.
Yes, Rob. A puck.
And when you're scouting players, and I don't know.
Just go with an accent.
I mean, at least he's not as pretty as Ryan Rowan Smith. So like when you go on his podcast, you have to be next to him. Like,
hey, I'm telling you, is he like lifting a lot? I watched him last night on MLB, he's network of their post-game show. God, he looked like he's put on like 30 pounds, not like muscle, like he was bursting through his suit, for God's sakes.
He's getting his chest is getting a little deep there. Like he's getting that. Who is that Patrick guy that was the edge rusher for the Seahawks? The big
Patrick Kearney. He's got a little Kearney to him.
Yeah, he's getting a Kearney build to him.
And he's he's got whoever does his hair. It's perfect. Like he's just got it dialed in. And good for Ryan, man. That's awesome. I mean, he's. I assume he's full time there or whatever his role is, but he's got a massive new role with MLB Network, and it's great. Just great to see. He's really good at what he does. Really good.
Yeah. So we'll do that next week, and then another thing to monitor too is that the Diamond proceedings, with Diamond Sports and everything. We're starting to see more and more teams who's in, who's out. That could shape the Mariners. My guess is still though, I bet you the Mariners run it alone next year.
Go at it alone.
Could affect payroll.
Do root again? You think?
Yeah, I still know that they're in a position, with MLB to do that. Maybe it'll change, but MLB is like waiting for this whole thing to play out, like who's going to be in with Diamond or who Diamond picks up on these reduced things, who isn't. Then they're going to have to offer those teams life rafts if they can't find a provider.
Just make it available.
Interesting.
Do root, but just make it available. I just think the easiest solution is just MLB.com, the TV, and just let people stream it. If people don't want to get cable or don't want to get
Manfred
Fubo,
will never allow it. Manfred and MLB will never allow it.
I don't get it.
They want that because the five main teams still have cable deals, and that would lessen their ability. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, and they can't just. Maybe just declare hardship. Like, and
you're making it hard for people to watch.
Honestly, what you could do too is any team that is under the luxury caps tax or whatever should be able to generate the revenue from a non-cable, like they should be devoid of blackout restrictions. And all the teams that are above the luxury tax should be, wow, I just thought of that. Like,
smart. Well, that's another on the long list of off-season topics for us. All right. You're the best. Thank you. And we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, Ryan.
See ya.
There he is, Ryan Divish, Seattle Times. He joins us every single week. Off-season Divish. And it's all brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. Located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District, they've been family-owned and operated for the past 40 years, kiddos, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check them out at chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. Full episode will be up on YouTube later. Please like and subscribe, comment away there. Also, the audio versions up on all of our podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, and, of course, up at pucksports.com. Big thanks to Chalet Bowl again. All right. The Hey, What the Puck, as we wrap up today's Daily Puck Drop. Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Say you listen to Puck Sports, and they'll take care of you. Guaranteed. They're at Restoration One of North Seattle. Two quick things on Hey, What the Puck. One we've already talked about, and then one we haven't. The whole Jerry Jones and going on the Dallas station 105.3, the Fan. We discussed this a little bit earlier when Jim was on the show, and I'll just kind of repeat it a little bit because I've been in that space, working in radio for 20 plus years. You have partnerships with certain outlets. At the time we had at the station you had the Sonics, then you had the Huskies. They went away, came back. You got the Kraken. There's always going to be, when you get in bed with a professional team, you've got to walk the line to a degree. Now, I haven't experienced it too many times where organizations got upset with something that you said on the air. It's happened before. We've detailed it a lot, years ago when Ian and I were on the radio and we did a Stanford pregame show. That was not well received by the University of Washington. Like, not at all. And I think they're probably, not knowing this, were probably some conversations behind the scenes about, could they get rid of us because of it? And if no one's ever heard that story, we did a whole 2-hour pregame show leading up into a Stanford Friday night football game against Washington. I mean, we played the fight song. We did interviews with people from Stanford. We made it seem like we went to Stanford, the whole thing. And frankly, I think it was one of the more genius things we've ever done. But again, I mean, it was very tongue in cheek, very, satirical. I mean, you would understand it if you were listening, but it can anger, your partners. And so I've always felt, that when you're in that business, that there's a tricky, and you got to walk a fine line when you're partners. And I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I don't think people should be partners with sports teams. I mean, they've got to be played somewhere, so I get it. But a lot of times they're usually on stations that aren't sports radio stations. At least that's what it used to be. It used to be where they weren't on sports radio stations. They were on other outlets. And so then you get to react to that. I mean, long before, right? 710 was a news station. It wasn't a sports station. And I think it can neuter the opinions at times of how you can talk about a team. And then I think the example yesterday with Jerry Jones and those hosts, they didn't do anything that crossed the line at all, even though that they are the Cowboys flagship. They had a legitimate question to Jerry Jones, and he became upset with it. And honestly, he's got every right to be upset. I mean, he owns the team, which owns the station because it's the flagship, and he is very right. He can remove them if he wants to. And that's a scary reality. And I think it's a reality when you see more and more of this, with teams being able to control whether it's a station, TV, a radio station, TV station, a website, you kind of walk around certain issues. You're not going to hammer, if you are a reporter that is paid by the team's website, you're not going on there and hammering the coach about the decision to go for it on 4th and 1. Why'd you go for it on 4th and 1? Well, the analytics told us that. Yeah, but the analytics can be wrong. You're not going to do that. You're just not, because that's not your role. And so I think the lines have been blurred a lot there, and it's hard. And I think it doesn't, the whole separation of church and state, you don't get that a lot. I thought those guys handled it well. I'm sure they were nervous last night because if Jerry Jones wants to get rid of him, he probably has the power to get rid of him. That's one story. The other story, not really a story, and more just a comment more than anything. Last night in Columbus, yeah, listen, I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world. I think we've established that, but I can appreciate emotional moments. That scene last night in Columbus was where they honored and celebrated the life of Johnny Gaudreau, was one of the most emotional scenes that I can ever remember in sports. And from everything from the video honoring him, the players who they're playing Florida, right? Florida coming out in his jersey in the pregame skate, just everything they did to start the game without a position out there, a left winger, which what is the position he played, and then they dumped the puck over there and just kind of let it sit there. to let 13 seconds go off the clock. He was the number 13. Just all of it was just really, really well done by Columbus and by the NHL. And I think you see a sport like hockey. Like I look at hockey players, like those are the toughest players in all of sports, those guys. And they don't like to show emotion. And they pan to the bench. Players are crying. Okay. Everyone is crying. The coach is crying. He's trying to fight back tears, but he can't. And I wanted to say it's a cool scene, but God, it was a scene that shouldn't have happened because of, one selfish individual. But, I watched, if you go to the Columbus's Twitter account, they have this 5 or 6 minute video of Johnny Gaudreau, just kind of his life going from Calgary to Columbus. He meets his wife and kids. It's really well done. You will watch this 6 minute video. I'll tweet it out, and you will just be choked up. Just really, real sad. But for a sport that is, a very tough guy's sport, and a sport in which you don't show a lot of emotion, like the players don't. That was a cool moment for them last night to kind of let their guard down. And the video of Gaudreau is real emotional. But well done by Columbus. Well done there by the Florida Panthers there as well. All right, that's it for the show today. Hey, What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. All of today's show, again, will be up on YouTube later. Also, check it out on Apple, Spotify, and, of course, at pucksports.com. We'll continue to work on the sound issues there on YouTube. I know there continue to be an issue there. Trust me, it's nothing on my end. It's either with the Riverside platform that we use and YouTube itself. But we are working to get it solved. If not, we'll pivot to a new platform provider. But I appreciate those checking in. And again, for YouTube, you just can't get past the staticky-ness of it. Just jump on Twitter because we'll be there. And also, of course, the Puck Sports mobile app. But again, everything will be up on all the podcast platforms later for your pleasure. Also, Cougs, I forgot to mention this earlier with Jim. The Old Crimson podcast, Cougars podcast with myself, Jim Moore, Paul Sorensen, Jamie Vinnick is up. Took last week off. Great conversation, 50 minutes. We talked about there's folks that want John Mateer benched. That's crazy. You'd have one win maybe if John Mateer was not the quarterback. Some discussion on Ben Arbuckle, Jake Dickert, the defense as a whole. Is there another loss on the horizon for them? And then the Cougs Corner, which we talked to a coach, either Jake Dickert, a coach, or a player every single week. It was a really fun chat with Kyle Williams. I haven't seen many interviews with Kyle Williams. We talk a little football, but we talk life. He grew up in L.A., running away from dogs. His love for Panda Express. Why, growing up in the L.A. area, I asked him why anyone would ever be a Clippers fan because he grew up being a basketball fan. He gave up playing baseball because he couldn't hit off a tee. That's a funny story. And then Kobe or LeBron. He's just a fun guy. Kyle Williams is a really down-to-earth, fun guy. And he had a great, I think, message at the beginning of the interview talking about the new world of college football and NIL. So go check it out. It's, again, available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and, of course, pucksports.com. We do that every single week. Cougs Corner, and also Old Crimson, all brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Big thanks to Andy Largent for supporting that. Cougar owned. Go check them out, flatstickpub.com. And the Cougar Collective, cougarcollective.org. Of course, the Old Crimson, go there. Join the 1890 Club. Big thanks to Tim, who sent me the Old Crimson mug. They got coffee coming out soon. Big thanks to Luke at the Cougar Collective for supporting those two podcasts. All right. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll get an opponent preview with Andy Bunker from Atlanta on the Falcons. He'll join the show tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Mike Garofolo with the latest around all things NFL Network coming up at 10:20. All right. Until then, we'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak